Welcome back to my channel. Today we explore the value of specific coins, the top 10 Washington silver $quarter coins value in today's market. So let's get started. First up, the 1983 Washington quarter with a D mint mark, even in damaged condition. So how much is this coin worth in today's market? So let's get started. This here is the 1983 Washington quarter, a standard 25-cent coin minted in the United States. The coin features George Washington on the obverse and an eagle in flight on the reverse. But today we're focusing specifically on the 1983 Washington quarter with the D mint mark, indicating it was minted in Denver. Now, let's talk about a key factor: damage. Most collectors prefer coins in good condition, but even in damaged state, some can still be worth more than you might expect. To understand how much this coin is worth, we have to consider its condition. In coin collecting, we use grades to determine the value of a coin, ranging from good to mint state, but in this case we're talking about a coin in damaged condition, so that's going to affect its value significantly. Let's break it down. In average condition, the 1983 Washington quarter with a D mint mark usually goes for around $5 to $7, but when the coin is in a damaged state, whether it's been scratched, bent, or worn down, it can lower the value considerably. For a damaged 1983 quarter, depending on the severity of the wear and tear, its value could range anywhere from $1 to $3 in today's market. Coins that are heavily damaged may be worth less, while those with just light wear might fetch a bit more from collectors who are looking for affordable pieces. Keep in mind that collectors still might find a damaged 1983 quarter appealing if the damage is minimal. Some people are more focused on the historical value than the coin's perfect appearance. The 1983 Washington quarter with a D mint mark doesn't have any rare varieties or errors like some of the other years, so the real value comes from the coin's overall condition and demand among collectors. Even in a damaged state, it still holds some appeal. To summarize, in today's market, a 1983 Washington quarter with a D mint mark in damaged condition is generally worth between $1 and $3. If you're holding on to one of these coins in better shape, you could see a higher value, but don't expect it to be worth much more unless it's in uncirculated or near perfect condition. Next up, the 1968 Washington quarter dollar, specifically the ones without a mint mark, and how its value stacks up in today's market, even in less than perfect condition. Now, when most people think of valuable coins, they tend to imagine rare dates or mint marks, but even a coin in dirty or worn condition, like this 1968 quarter, can have value under the right circumstances. Let's dive into how that works. So first, let's talk about the basics. The 1968 Washington quarter is part of the regular series that was struck in 90% silver up until 1964. But after that, the US Mint switched to a copper nickel-clad composition, meaning the 1968 quarter is made of an alloy with little to no silver content. Even though it's not silver, the 1968 Washington quarter still holds historical value as part of the ongoing series, with George Washington's portrait on the obverse and the eagle on the reverse. So let's get to the important question: how much is this quarter worth today? The value depends on a few factors, like the coin's condition, whether it has a mint mark or not, and current market trends. Typically, when we talk about coin values, we're referring to grading or how well preserved the coin is. Coins in excellent condition, with little to no wear, are worth more. But what if you've got a coin in a dirty condition, like this one? That's where things get interesting. A dirty coin doesn't mean it's worthless, it just means it's probably been handled a lot or has surface tarnish or grime, which can lower its grade. A 1968 Washington quarter in average condition where dirt may be worth between 25 to 50 cents, depending on where and how it's being sold. However, clean or well-preserved examples in higher grades can be worth a few dollars, anywhere from $1 to $3. If you were to find a quarter in uncirculated condition or one with unique errors, you might see much higher values. But for a dirty or worn 1968 quarter, we're looking more in the range of under $1, but still, it's not totally worthless. Now, when it comes to mint marks, the 1968 Washington quarter is interesting because it doesn't have a mint mark. That means it was produced at the Philadelphia Mint. In fact, the 1968 quarter is actually one of the last years that coins were made at Philly without a mint mark, as starting in 1968, quarters from other mints like Denver and San Francisco started using distinct mint marks to distinguish their origin. While the absence of a mint mark isn't rare for 1968, coins from earlier years without mint marks can sometimes be more valuable. But for 1968, the value difference is typically minimal. What matters more is the overall condition. So, let's talk current market trends. Even though a 1968 Washington quarter in dirty condition doesn't have much intrinsic value, there's still a market for collectors and people buying coins for their historical significance. In today's market, expect to find a coin like this selling for anywhere between 25 to 50 cents, depending on the dealer or where it's listed. If you happen to find this coin in a lot of other quarters or among a collection, you could still be looking at a few dollars in total, especially if it's part of a bulk sale. So, the bottom line is a dirty 1968 Washington quarter without a mint mark isn't going to make you rich, but it still holds value. Whether you're a collector or just someone trying to understand the worth of coins in your pocket change, it's always a good idea to learn the basics of coin values. Next up, the 1990 Washington quarter, specifically the one with the P mint mark, and what it's worth in today's market, especially when it's in fine condition. The 1990 Washington quarter is an interesting piece for collectors, as it holds some value beyond its face value. In this video, we'll break down why it's valuable, how the P mint mark impacts its worth, and how its condition plays a big role in determining how much it's worth today. Let's start with a quick overview. The 1990 Washington quarter is part of the modern circulating coinage series. Unlike the older silver quarters minted before 1965, the 1990 quarter is made of a copper-nickel-clad composition. This means it doesn't have any silver content, but it still holds collectible value for a number of reasons. On the obverse, you've got George Washington's profile, and on the reverse, the iconic eagle. This design, created by John Flanagan, has been a staple of the U.S. quarter since 1932. Now, you might be wondering, what's so special about a P mint mark? Well, starting in 1980, the U.S. Mint began adding the P mint mark to quarters minted at the Philadelphia Mint. Prior to this, Philadelphia minted coins didn't feature a mint mark at all, so if you find a 1990 Washington quarter with a P mint mark, it's a sign it came from Philly, and collectors often look for these coins when building specific collections. In 1990, a total of 544 million quarters were minted at the Philadelphia Mint with the P mint mark. While this is a large mintage, the P mark still adds a bit of character and importance to the coin for collectors. Now let's talk about condition, because this is where things really get interesting. The value of a coin can vary drastically depending on how well it's been preserved. For example, a 1990 Washington quarter in fine condition is a step up from a heavily worn or circulated coin, but isn't quite in mint or uncirculated condition. A coin in fine condition means it has some wear, but the key details like Washington's features and the eagle on the reverse are still recognizable. You might see some light scratches, slight discoloration, and some flattening on the high points, but it's still a solid piece for collectors. So, what's this 1990 Washington quarter worth in today's market, especially in fine condition? While this coin is made of copper nickel and doesn't have any silver content, it's still collectible, particularly if it's in good condition and has the P mint mark. In fine condition, you can typically expect to see a 1990 quarter with the P mint mark priced around $1 to $2 on the open market. It's not a huge amount, but if you find one of these quarters in a collection or from a bulk lot of change, it's a nice little bonus. Now, if this coin were to be in uncirculated condition, it could be worth a bit more, maybe $3 to $5 depending on the demand and the buyer. So where can you find or sell a 1990 Washington quarter with a P mint mark? If you've got a collection or inherited coins, it's a good idea to check platforms like eBay, local coin shops, or online coin dealers. While this coin isn't going to make you rich, it's still worth a little more than face value, especially if you have a good number of them. You may also find dealers at coin shows who can help you accurately price your coins and provide more insight into any rarities or specific coins you have in your collection. So why collect a 1990 Washington quarter in the first place? Well, while it's not rare, it's part of a historical coin series that appeals to collectors who want to complete their quarter collections. It's also a piece of U.S. coin history from the modern era, and as with any collectible, the value could rise over time as interest in these coins grows. If you're looking to start your own collection of Washington quarters, the 1990p mint mark is a nice addition, even if it's not the most valuable coin out there. To wrap it up, the 1990 Washington quarter with the P mint mark is a fun piece for collectors, and in fine condition, it's worth around $1 to $2. While it's not a huge jackpot, it's a solid addition to a collection, especially if you find it in decent shape. Next up, the 1970 Washington quarter with the D mint mark. If you've ever wondered how much it's worth in today's market, especially in fine condition, you're in the right place. So let's break it down. The Washington quarter was first introduced in 1932, and it's still one of the most recognizable coins in the US. Today, we're looking at the 1970 version, specifically the one with the D mint mark. If you're not familiar, the mint mark indicates where the coin was produced. D stands for the Denver Mint. Now, before we get into the value, let's quickly talk about the coin's composition. Unlike the silver quarters made before 1965, the 1970 Washington quarter is not made of 90% silver. Instead, it's a clad coin, meaning it has a copper-nickel core with a copper-nickel core with a copper-nickel outer layer. So, what makes this coin valuable? Well, in fine condition, meaning the coin has moderate wear, but the details are still visible. It doesn't carry a huge premium just because of its age or mint mark. Most of these 1970 quarters are worth their face value, which is 25 cents. But if you're lucky enough to find one in good condition, it can fetch a little more than that. In today's market, a 1970 Washington from $4 to $6. It's not a high-value coin, but it's still worth more than face value because of its age and condition. Keep in mind, if the coin is in better condition, like very fine or extra fine, it can fetch anywhere from $7 to $10. And of course, if you find one that is graded mint state or uncirculated, you could see much higher values, sometimes up to $15 or more. Now, while the 1970 Washington quarter isn't the most valuable coin out there, there are still some collectors who are interested in it. And don't forget, if you ever come across one in a really exceptional state, it could be a great addition to your collection or even a valuable find. Remember, condition is key when it comes to determining a coin's value. Be sure to inspect your quarters closely, checking for any signs of wear, scratches, or damage that could affect its worth. Next up, the 1989 Washington silver quarter with the P mint mark in extra fine condition. How valuable is it in today's market? Let's find out. The Washington quarter was first issued in 1932, and it's one of the most recognized coins in US history. By 1989, the coin was still in regular circulation, but many collectors focus on key years and special conditions, so let's take a look at the 1989 quarter with a P mint mark. Now, a quick note, the 1989 Washington quarter, like most quarters minted after 1964, is composed of a copper nickel clad. That means it isn't made of silver. However, if we're talking about the value of a 1989 quarter in extra fine condition, we're looking at a non-silver issue, but still one worth noting in certain conditions. Mint marks are key when assessing a coin's rarity and potential value. The 1989 Washington quarter was minted at 3 locations: Philadelphia P, Denver D, and San Francisco S. The P mint mark is what you're most likely to find in circulation, as it was produced at the Philadelphia Mint. And if you've got this coin in extra fine condition, it's a solid step up from the typical circulated ones. An extra fine condition coin shows very little wear. The features of Washington's portrait and the eagle's wings are still sharp and well defined, but there may be some light wear on the high points. So, how much is this coin worth? Well, in today's market, a 1989 Washington quarter with the P mint mark in extra fine condition isn't a high-value coin like some of its rarer counterparts. Generally, the value will hover around $5 to $8. While it's not a silver quarter, the 1989 P mint mark in extra fine condition can still attract collectors because it's part of the largest series of Washington quarters, and coins in good condition are always in demand. But here's the thing: the value can increase if you find a rare error or a special version of this coin. Some collectors look for proof coins or specific uncirculated versions that might carry a higher premium, and that can push the value up beyond the standard $5 to $8. Also, if the coin is graded by a professional service, like the Numismatic Guarantee Corporation (NGC) or Professional Coin Grading Service (PCGS), a higher grade can increase the value. But for the standard extra fine 1989 P-Mine P-Mint quarter, don't expect a windfall unless it's got something special. To wrap it up, the 1989 Washington Silver Quarter with the P-Mint mark in extra fine condition might not be worth a fortune, but it's still a solid find for collectors who appreciate well-maintained coins. If you've got one in your collection, keep it safe. Who knows, with the right buyer or market, it could appreciate over time. Next up, the 1981 Washington Silver Quarter with a P-Mint mark. We'll discuss what makes this coin special, especially if you've got one in extra fine condition, and most importantly, how much it's worth in today's market. So if you're into numismatics or just curious about coin values, stick around. First off, let's take a quick look at the coin itself. This is the 1981 Washington Quarter, which features George Washington on the front and the eagle and olive branch on the back. It's a part of the Washington Quarter series, which started in 1932 and continues today, but what's important here is the P-Mint mark. The mint mark tells you where the coin was produced, and in this case, it's the Philadelphia Mint. The P-Mint mark means it was made in Philadelphia, and that's pretty important because this is the first year the U.S. Mint put the P-Mint mark on quarters. All quarters prior to 1981 were minted without a mint mark at all. But what really matters for collectors today is the coin's condition. Now, this is where the condition comes into play. This quarter in extra fine condition means it's seen some wear, but it's still in great shape. You'll notice minimal wear on the design details, and the coin will have a nice overall appearance with some minor scuffs, but not a lot of deep scratches or discoloration. A coin in this condition is typically considered between a grade of XF40 and XF40 and XF45. Now, let's talk value. The 1981 Washington Quarter isn't the rarest coin out there, but if it's in extra fine condition, it does have some value above its face value. As of 2024, a 1981 Washington Quarter with a P-Mint mark in extra fine condition is typically worth anywhere from $3 to $5 on the open market. That's well above its face value of 25 cents. Of course, the exact value can depend on factors like demand, market trends, and where you sell it. If you're looking to sell or trade, local coin shops or online marketplaces are your best bet for getting the most value. Remember, if you happen to have one of these quarters in even better condition like A, almost uncirculated, or MS mint state, you could see an even higher price, but for a nice extra fine example, $3 to $5 is about what you can expect. Next up, the 1995 Washington Silver Quarter with a D mint mark. If you're into coin collecting or just curious about its value, stick around because this could be worth more than you think. First, let's take a look at the 1995 Washington Silver Quarter. If you're familiar with Washington Quarters, you know they were first minted in 1932 to commemorate George Washington's 200th birthday. Now, by 1995, the design remained largely unchanged, featuring Washington's profile on the obverse and an eagle on the reverse. What makes this particular coin special is that it's a silver quarter, meaning it contains 90% silver. The D mint mark indicates it was minted in Denver, Colorado. This is important because it helps determine rarity, along with overall condition. Speaking of condition, when it comes to coins, the better the condition, the more valuable it is. A quarter that's been well preserved, with minimal wear and no major scratches or discoloration, will command a higher price in the market. In good condition, this coin will show some wear, but will still maintain the distinct features of Washington's profile and the eagle on the reverse. It's important to note that while the 1995 quarter is not rare in the traditional sense, the value increases based on silver content and the condition it's in. At face value, it's just 25 cents, but due to its silver content, this quarter is worth significantly more. As of 2024, the price of silver fluctuates, but a 1995 D mint mark Washington Quarter in good condition could sell for around $3 to $4 USD, depending on the exact market price of silver and the condition of the coin. If the coin is in excellent condition and it's graded by a professional service like PCGS or NGC, its value could go up to $5 to $6 or even higher, especially if there's strong demand or if it's part of a collection. So, if you have one of these quarters sitting in your collection, how can you get the most value for it? First, check the condition carefully. If you're not sure, consider getting your coin graded by a professional. This can give you a more accurate idea of its market value. Once you know what you've got, you can either sell it to a coin dealer or put it up on auction sites like eBay. And remember, always store your coins in a safe, dry place to preserve their condition. This will help ensure their value remains intact. The 1995 Washington Silver Quarter with the D Mint mark is an interesting and valuable piece for collectors and silver enthusiasts alike. Whether you're holding onto it for its silver content or adding it to your collection, it's definitely worth taking a closer look. Next up, the 1984 Washington Silver Quarter with the P Mint mark and discussing its current value in the market. If you're a coin collector or just getting started, you're going to want to stick around for this one. Here we have a 1984 Washington Quarter, but there's something special about this one, the P Mint mark. Minted in Philadelphia, this coin is a key piece in any US coin collection. Now, when it comes to the value of this 1984 quarter, a lot of factors come into play, including the coin's condition, rarity, and the current market demand. But today we're focusing on the value of the 1984 Washington Quarter with a P Mint mark in fine condition. First, let's quickly define what fine condition means. A fine condition coin typically shows noticeable wear, but key details like Washington's hair, the eagle's wings, and other major features are still clearly visible. It's not in pristine condition, but it's not badly worn either. As you can see, the design is still legible, but the surfaces show some wear and light scratching. This is what we mean by fine condition. So, what's the value of this coin today? As of 2024, a 1984 Washington Quarter in fine condition is generally worth anywhere from $4 to $6. That's right, even though this coin is from the 1980s, it's still made of a copper nickel-clad composition, not pure silver, so its value isn't directly tied to silver content. Now, you might be wondering, why is this coin valuable at all? Well, the 1984 Washington Quarter isn't rare by itself, but its value is influenced by factors like its minting, the demand from collectors, and its age. There are more valuable coins out there, but for a 1984 quarter it holds a solid place among collectors of modern US currency. If you're thinking of selling your 1984 quarter or adding it to your collection, remember that the condition matters a lot. The better the condition, the higher the price. But since this one is in fine condition, it's right in that $4 to $6 range. Before you get too excited, if you do find one of these quarters in excellent condition, say, about uncirculated, its value could be higher, closer to $10 to $15. So, whether you're looking to buy or sell, always keep an eye on the coin's wear and maybe even check out a reputable dealer or auction site to get the best idea of the current market value. Next up, the 1979 Washington Silver Quarter with a D Mint mark and exploring its value, especially when it's in damaged condition. You might be surprised by what you learn, so stick around. Here it is, the 1979 Washington Quarter, minted in Denver, as indicated by that D Mint mark. Now, typically, when we think of valuable coins, we picture pristine, uncirculated pieces, but what if you have one that's been damaged? That's the situation we're exploring today. Before we dive into its value, let's clarify something. Coins in damaged condition don't fetch the same prices as those in mint condition, but they can still have value. So, let's break down the specifics of the 1979 quarter. When we talk about damaged condition, we're referring to a coin that has been physically altered or harmed in some way. It could be from being dropped, scratched, bent, or maybe even corroded by environmental factors. Damaged coins lose some of their market value, but not necessarily all of it. As you can see, this coin shows visible wear, dents, and scratches. The details are still somewhat visible, but they're no longer in perfect condition. In damaged coins, the design will be affected, and the overall appearance will be less sharp, but collectors still look for specific features. So, what is the value of a 1979 Washington Quarter with a D Mint mark in damaged condition? Let's get into it. In today's market, a 1979 Washington Quarter with the D Mint mark in damaged condition typically ranges between $3 to $5. Yes, you heard that right. Even in a damaged state, this quarter still holds some value, mainly because it's a US coin and collectors are always on the lookout for even damaged versions. Now, you might be wondering, why would anyone want to buy a damaged coin? Well, some collectors specialize in acquiring coins with unique characteristics, even if they're not in perfect condition. And if the damage is minor, it may not affect the coin's basic worth too drastically. Remember though, the extent of the damage plays a huge role in how much a coin is worth. A small scratch here or there won't hurt its value as much as a coin that's heavily bent, corroded, or has chunks missing. The more damage a coin has, the less it's worth. For example, if your 1979 quarter has a serious dent or deep gouge, its value could drop closer to $2 or even lower. However, if it's just a little worn with some surface scratches, the value might stay near that $3 to $5 range. But don't let that discourage you. If you happen to find a damaged 1979 quarter with some historical significance or with a unique error, the value could be higher. Some buyers or collectors may still be interested, especially if it's a rarer coin or has an interesting backstory. Even though damaged coins aren't going to make you a fortune, they can still be an interesting part of your collection. And who knows, with the right market conditions, you might be able to sell it to the right collector who sees its potential. So, if you have a 1979 Washington quarter with the D mint mark, take a look at its condition. If it's damaged, don't just toss it aside. You might have something worth a few dollars. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more coin collecting content. See you in next